Hey, what's up, everybody? It's just Charles Sabanson, and welcome you guys to another episode of the Dreamers Pro Show, where we cover everything from sports, hot topics, classic debates, entertainment, and we give you guys a fresh perspective on things and how we see them. And today we got a bit of a disturbing show that we want to get into, but before we get into it, please make sure you like the video and sub to the channel. So, there's kind of been this shift that has been taking place in the NBA over the last, let me say, 6 to 7 years, where we're seeing international players dominate the sport in a way that they've never done in the past. To put this into context, the last 6 regular season MVPs in the NBA, the last 6 of them have all been international players. All of them. That's been Nikola Jokic, Giannis Antetokounmpo, I can't remember, and Joel Embiid. And this year, without a shot of a doubt, that is going to be another one of these guys is going to win. It's either going to be SGA or Nikola Jokic. That's what it's going to be. If you look at the top 5 players in the NBA, 4 out of the 5 of them are all foreign players. If you look at the all-first NBA team last year, do you know who comprised that team? Let me just, I think I just had it open on my tab a few moments ago. Yes, okay, here it is. I had Giannis Antetokounmpo, Luka Doncic, SGA, Nikola Jokic, Jason Tatum. Of those 5 players, only one of them was an American-born player. Out of the 5. If you look at the All-Star voting this year, let me see if I can actually pull it up. All-Star voting results. I think, the All-Star voting results, the vast majority of them were these international guys who got a lot of votes, right? This year, let me see who, I'm trying to see who got the most votes. At one point, I think it was Nikola Jokic got the most fan votes overall. He got 3.7 million votes. That's more than LeBron. That's more than Kevin Durant. The 4th player in that slot in the Western Conference was Victor Wembanyama. All right. If we have the Eastern Conference, you have Giannis Antetokounmpo, who led all of them in the Eastern Conference in the front court. Western Conference, let's see. The front court, it was Nikola Jokic. Let me see. Western Conference, let me see. The guards, it was SGA, right? So these guys are also dominating in terms of votes and fans voting them in, which represents another shift. And this is the reason why I was shocked this morning when I came across an article that highlighted some comments from Carmelo Anthony. And the article was from fadeawayworld.net, and it has the following headline, and it says, Carmelo Anthony explains why Victor Wembanyama can't be the face of the NBA. Folks, you're not going to believe what Carmelo said. Let's get into his comments now. In a segment on the 7 p.m. in Brooklyn podcast, NBA legend Carmelo Anthony spoke about which player is next in line as the face of the NBA. According to Anthony, it can't be Victor Wembanyama for one particular reason. Wemby can't be the face of the NBA because this is our sport, referring to America. Luka can't be the face. Giannis can't be the face. SGA can't be the face, said Anthony. Ant, Ja, Jason Tatum, these are the faces. Zion was supposed to be the face of the NBA. You can't be the face of a league that we started. Another person, and then the article continues on, it's hard to define what it means to be the quote-unquote face of the NBA, but its title is typically reserved for the best players in the league. As a representative of the league and a role model for countless young athletes, being the NBA's featured player comes with a certain standard of living that often involves carrying the league's image. And then the article then goes on to say a few other things. What are my thoughts about what Carmelo Anthony had to say? I found what Carmelo had to say extremely disappointing. Okay? Extremely disappointing. Although I understand what he's trying to say in the sense that conventional wisdom tells you, yes, it's an American sport, so therefore an American should be the one, be the face of the league, but it still doesn't excuse his comments. Okay, and I'm gonna tell you why. The best way to attack this issue isn't to attack it head on. is to attack it with some examples. Okay, first of all, I don't see how a foreign player cannot be the face of the NBA when the NBA is an international sport. It's a global sport. They're trying to grow in every market imaginable. They're trying to grow in Europe. They're trying to grow in China. They're trying to grow in Africa. So how can you have a league that's trying to market a sport, grow a sport with various initiatives across the globe, then turn around and say that, hey, look, you guys can play in our NBA, but you can't be the face of our NBA. And then turn around and say to those fan bases around the world, you guys can support our league, but just know that no player from either of these countries or regions of the world can ever be the face of our sport. Now, please continue to support us and give us your money. Thanks. How does that work? That's the first aspect of this. Let's address it from another vantage point. Can you imagine if this was the reverse? It's always important to say this. Can you imagine if this was the reverse? If it was a white dominated sport and they turn around and say, hey man, this sport was created by whites. And so therefore you can never have a black be the face of the sport. They can play, they can get good contracts and all of that stuff, but this sport has always remained for the whites, and only a white whatever player can be the face of the league. You would have blacks running and hollering and screaming racism and all of this stuff, right? So where is the outcry here? Where's the outcry? Now, some people say, oh man, you ain't keeping it on code and this and this and that and this and this. Look, I'm 37 years old, about to be 38. I'm a grown ass man, son. I don't let other men, maybe outside my father, maybe a few of my uncles or mentor, influence me. I think for myself. I don't allow other men in this world to lead me on how I need to be seeing the world and thinking. This is how I view it. Number two, I'm a global citizen. Yes, I was born in the States. I've lived all over the world. I've lived in the United States. I've lived in Europe. I've lived in Africa. So I have a global perspective. Similarly to Kobe. That's the reason why Kobe was much more relatable to more people around the world than some other players. Kobe was a global citizen. He was truly a global ambassador. He was respected in the United States and he was respected abroad. And he's one of the reasons why so many players like Joel Embiid and others were influenced by Kobe Bryant, watching him play basketball for the Lakers for all of those years. You then have that aspect of it. And as I was listening to Melo's comments, I did some research. Okay. As you guys know, or some of you may be aware, I'm a huge Formula One fan. Huge Formula One fan. My favorite driver, my favorite team, because when I was living in Italy, my favorite team was Ferrari. But my favorite driver had always been Lewis Hamilton. Okay? Now, what is it? It's quite obvious why I like Hamilton. He's a black guy. There aren't really any black guys in the sport. Doesn't mean that I don't like Michael Schumacher, who I do like. I like Charles Leclerc. I like Lando Norris. Not a fan of Max Verstappen. The point I'm making is I resonate with Hamilton because he's a black guy, but that doesn't stop me from liking all of these other drivers and respecting just how good they are. Sebastian Vettel and all of these guys for being excellent drivers. But I resonate with him the same way if it was an inverse. If it was all black drivers and it was one white driver, I'm sure a lot of people, a lot of whites would resonate with him, but it doesn't mean that they don't respect the craftsmanship and the driving skills of all of these other guys. I mean, people are not that myopic, right? So you can have that. But anyway, Hamilton was one of the people that really got me into the sport, although I supported Ferrari. So then I did some quick research this morning and I asked the question. I said, who was the one that started Formula One? And according to what I found, it says, no one is absolutely sure who first had the idea of an official Formula One World Championship, but the credit is generally given to Marquis Antonio Brivio Sforza. And I quickly Googled him, and he, I believe, was an Italian. Sforza was an Italian race driver, and he was born in Bellia, Italy, and he died in Milano. I think he died in Milano, and then it says some other stuff there, right? So he's an Italian. Now, can you imagine if the forerunners and the gatekeepers of Formula One said, this sport, the face of this sport can only be an Italian or could only be a white guy. Can you imagine how that sounds? Do you know who the face of this Formula One is right now? Lewis Hamilton. For sure. And then you can have Max Verstappen, but for sure it's Lewis. He's the biggest draw. When they wanted to market the sports in the United States, they were marketing Hamilton, not Verstappen. So can you imagine if Formula One said that? What would black people be saying? Black people be saying, oh, this is xenophobic and blah, 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 blah. So why is it different in the case of Carmelo? Why do we make exceptions for these things? Why? Why isn't wrong? And you know one thing I got to say. Some blacks like to say, well, white people do it too, so I don't see why we do it. My brothers, I don't model my life against what white people do. White people do not model their lives against what black people do. White people do what white people want to do, and they do what they do. They don't do it in terms of, well, what do the blacks do? No, they do what they do. And why are you trying to live your life measuring every single move and every single decision and every single idea you have against what a white person says? If a white person does something wrong, so therefore you say to yourself, well, they did it wrong, I have to have the opportunity. Why? Why don't you just do what's right because you believe it? Why is it always informed of what this white person did or what that person? Do what you believe and do what's right, irrespective of what everybody else is doing. And I'm saying this to say, I'm black, Carmelo Anthony's black, but I disagree with these comments. I think they're extremely xenophobic. And I don't think this is the message you should be sending out there to all of the younger fans coming up watching the sport that are trying to be inspired. What if there's a kid somewhere in the world that was inspired by Carmelo Anthony, watching him play, just to hear Carmelo later on say in life, oh man, this sport can only be for Americans. What? I don't support this message. I think it's ridiculous. Why are you saying this? So if it's Victor or somebody else or Luka or Nikola Jokic, what's going to happen? The fact of the matter is, let's be honest about this, a lot of the American guys have not been taking the sport seriously. Let's keep it a buck. It's one of the reasons why a lot of NBA fans who are Americans don't give a damn. They're not thinking of, oh, well, I'm not going to support this guy because he's not American. They don't care. They're going to support who they think plays great ball. The fact of the matter is a lot of American NBA fans are not rocking with American players because of how they're carrying the league since their predecessors. You go back to the Magic Johnsons, the Larry Birds, the Michael Jordans, the Kobes. These guys held a standard. What are these new dudes doing? Nothing. So they created an avenue for these international guys to come in and totally take over the league. We even put up a poll before shooting this video on our channel about an hour ago, and I said, who would you be for or against a foreign player being the face of the NBA? Still early. Out of the 1,000 voters, 85% of them said for. 15% said against. Let me go through some of the comments. One person said, sad, this is even a question. So another person said, should be the best player, period. Another person said, it's the best player. Doesn't matter where you come from. Another person said, let me look for another one. Right now, Caitlin Clark is the face about. Another person says, you need an it doesn't matter button. This is what our viewers said. So for Carmelo to say that, and what surprises me is, Carmelo is not like some regular dude walking off the street giving his opinion. Carmelo Anthony has played basketball around the world, and he's traveled around the world. So for him to have this view is crazy to me. It's not like as if you're somebody that's talking that's not exposed, that hasn't been anywhere in the world. You've traveled the world. So to still hold this view is crazy to me. So you should give it to somebody else that's less deserving just because they from the States? How is that beneficial to the fans? How is that beneficial to the product? Don't you want the best product out there possible? Like, what are we talking about here? It's like you own a restaurant. Oh, this restaurant is only going to be Jews that cook. It's only going to be Italians that cook. It's only going to be French people that cook or Africans that cook. And this is my viewpoint. But it's like, oh, bro, wait a minute. I know this is an Africans only restaurant, but this Lebanese guy really knows how to make good food. Are you telling me we're not going to hire him because it's an African restaurant, but he cooks really, really good? So we're going to diminish our product just because we want to hold on to this thing that it must be an African? What the are we talking about? What are we talking about? What are we talking about right now? So those comments were extremely disappointing. And I think we need to get out of this mindset, because this very mindset can be used against you. And if you endorse this, don't be complaining when somebody says some wild, crazy stuff about blacks. I don't want to hear nothing. Because right is wrong is wrong. Period. Whether if it's a black dude doing it, a white dude doing it, right is right and wrong is wrong. Period. You have to be principled about this. Those comments are crazy, in my personal view. Whatever you guys think, please leave your thoughts and comments in the comment section. We catch you guys on the next show, and I'm out. Peace.